Howdy folks, Zapper here, aka Sean, and welcome back to round 3 of the Event Horizon. So we've just wrapped up the second match, and we are going on to the third match. And who are the teams that are on deck? So it looks like we've got the Legends, which are Team White, and we've got the Dark Illuminati, which is Team Black. So the Legends are generally thought of as being the good guys. Good is usually associated with white. And then we've got the Dark Illuminati, and Illuminati is kind of associated with maybe the bad guys, kind of conspiracy type stuff. Bad is usually associated with the color black. That's an interesting psychological conclusion that I've come to. I don't know. Am I trying to get too deep into things? Probably. Anyway, so we'll go ahead and we've got the map that's set up right here. And then we've got the rest of the map, which is, here, let me move these guys out of the way. And we've got another part of the map. So we've got a split map. So this should be definitely an interesting gameplay. Of course, we'll find out. The last match was kind of tough when we had all 4 platters in one straight line, and this time we've got a large arena over here, and then we've got a smaller sub arena over here. So we'll see how this one plays out. You can see that the white base is by itself over here. We've also got Lith's Lair, and then we've also got the Modern Labyrinth. So we'll see how that plays out. And then of course over on this map we've got the black base, and then all of the other labyrinths. And then we've also got an alternate modern right here, and we have an alternate ancient labyrinth. So it could be very interesting for this gameplay. Now let's get on to the teams. We'll see what the lineup for the Legends are and the lineup for the Dark Illuminati. All right, we'll start with the Legends, or Team White, first, and these characters are in no particular order. And I haven't decided. I'm going to start doing like team captains and all that kind of stuff. There's really no rhyme or reason kind of who is going to end up being a team captain or not. It's just going to be arbitrary because, this is my world and you're living in it, so welcome to it. Anyway, so we've got Buns. We're starting out with Buns right here. And she chose Minx and Jinx. So Minx and Jinx are the little people, and you can see they've got some pretty decent stats in wits. I believe that is throw. One of these days I'll figure this out. Yeah, that's throw. So they're really good at throwing stuff. They have a very high react, and they're very stealthy, just like you would think of the normal trope for a halfling or hobbits or whatever. You would think of them as being, meeting all these things. Very, very witty. They can throw stuff. They react, and they're very good at hiding. So Minx and Jinx have a natural ranged attack that uses throw, so you can see these additional stats here. So they don't need a card to throw stuff. That's part of their natural ability. And if an enemy is in Minx and Jinx space and they fop on a hit, they get to steal 1 card from the enemy. So they're thieves, right? Like you consider halflings or hobbits, in most fantasy tropes, they're, normally the crafty little thief people, right? Like Bilbo stole the Arkenstone, and Bilbo stole the ring from Gollum. So very sneaky, very crafty. So I'll show you the back of Buns' card, and I think the reason that she chose Minx and Jinx is for the adventurous and the curious nature, right? And look back at the front again. Hairstyles, they got similar hairstyles. So there's Buns, who is her avatar is Minx and Jinx. All right, next up we have Beans, and he chose Perseus, Pawn of the Gods. So we have a character from actual mythology. So Perseus, as you could imagine, is very good at melee, very good with point weapons, and he's very strong. The rest of his stats are pretty normal. So one of his abilities is Zeus's Aid. The first time that Perseus is banished, he draws 1 elite card. So that could be pretty good for him. And then a negative is Hera's schemes. The first time that Perseus amazes an adventurer, one enemy of your choice draws a henchman. So the other team is going to get some help when he amazes an adventurer. So that could be good, that could be bad, depending on what's going on. So we'll show you the back of Bean's card. All right, so here we've got Beans, and I think the reason that he chose Perseus to be his avatar is, of course, he wants to be a martial arts master, and of the characters of the avatars that Bean had a choice of, this was probably the closest to a martial arts master, right? You know, Perseus, you've seen Clash of the Titans, and, you know, he was a very good warrior. So that's kind of why he chose Perseus, Pawn of the Gods. And this is partly why, also Perseus is partly why the white team is known as the Legends, because Perseus, you know, he's kind of a legendary character, right? So on to the next character. Next up we have Shep, and he chose Sheridan the Cavalryman, and Sheridan is an actual figure from history. He was a Union Civil War general. So Shep, he was a Navy man. You can kind of see his uniform right here. I can see that you know, he's got some kind of badge, and he's got his medals there and his name tag. And so yeah, there was no Navy character that came up in the draw, so he chose the next best thing, which was the Army, which he made a good choice. I firmly stand by Shep's decision to choose somebody in the Army. These pictures were taken in, I believe, the 90s. So if you look here on the back of the card, right here, so 1991 from Parker Brothers. And I joined the Army in 1991. Dude, the Army would have never let you get away with a mustache like that. Only in the Navy. Those guys have zero discipline. So look at that mustache. That's just ridiculous. Anyway, on to Sheridan the Cavalryman. So he is very good with aim. He has a very high honor, and he has a very high respect. So you would you know, kind of expect that from a cavalry general. Let me go over his stuff over here. So when owning a mount, enemies within 2 aura at start of each melee must each reveal a card. He can move through enemy without stopping, and he gains +1 armor. So we need to get Sheridan a horse. And of course he's good with mounts, good with revolvers. He's good with, I believe that's powder pistols. I want to say powder pistol. Yeah, powder pistols. And he is also good with blade weapons. So, and now on to Shep. So, you know, you can see he was recruiter Shep. He wanted to play pro hockey, and so on and so forth. So, hard charging, cavalry charging. So, but Shep picked Sheridan because Shep's a military man, and Sheridan is a military man. And this is the other character that kind of led white team to choose the name Legends for their team, because, you know, Sheridan is kind of a more well-known historical military figure. So now we'll move on to the next character. All right, next up we have Stormy, and she chose Qual, the matriarch, as her avatar. And Qual's got some pretty good stats, and she's got some pretty bad stats. So her power is very high, and of course her respect is very high. She has a natural ranged attack that has a pretty long distance. And then of course, you know, some of her other stats are not that good. Her react and her stealth is pretty bad. Special abilities, she has the Swirling Fog, where she gets +3 stealth for combat purposes only. Allies in her space during the enemy fire phase also gain +3 stealth. And then she has Static Storm, natural ranged attack using wits versus stealth for hit. So this is kind of the reason Stormy picked Qual. Her nickname is Stormy, and she has these storm abilities. So that's why she chose Qual, the matriarch. And then, so here you got some descriptions of her. So, and then also, Qual starts with, here we go, we've got one henchman. So here's the henchman that Qual, the matriarch, got. So we've got a henchman, his name is Torrential Rain. not spelled R-A-I-N. But again, this kind of fits with the whole storm theme. So, I mean, if you look at Torrential Rain's flavor text, the storm is coming, baby. So, and this was totally random, by the way. So it's kind of interesting how things kind of work out even when it's random. It doesn't seem random. So there you go. There's Torrential Rain. All right, next up on the Legends, we have Chappie. And Chappie chose Ian Welsh, the Secret Agent. The Secret Agent has a very, very high wits and a very good point stat. The rest of his stats are pretty much average. All right, and then some of his abilities. Ian and all allies cannot suffer health loss from treasure cards other than ranged, melee, and creature cards. So this guy, that's pretty significant, right? So there's a lot of treasure cards. So if we look over here, basically that stack, this stack, and this stack are all treasure cards. So there's a lot of stuff that, because Ian Welsh is on the board, his teammates will be immune to. So that's a pretty good deal. I don't remember the distribution of cards in the different decks, but it's like the common deck is like 50 or 60% weapons, and then the secret deck is a little bit lower, and then the elite deck is significantly lower as far as weapons and stuff goes. So you got Chappie's picture right there. Let's look on the back. All right, so Chappie wanted to be a big shot detective, secret agent detective, so there we go. So that is Chappie, and Ian Welsh received one card, which happens to be the planar cube. So until the start of the user's next turn, all terrain except domes and cavern walls disappear. This includes gates and mesas. Adventures are unaffected. So this is kind of like, it basically negates a turn, because you won't be able to move anywhere, because all, let me see. No, wait, all terrain disappears. So that means basically it's going to be a flat map with unlimited lines of sight. So if somebody's got a really long range weapon, that might be good. So, and then if you have a respect of 4 or higher, you get to draw another card when you use this. So he happens to have a respect of 4. So we'll see if Ian uses that card. You never know. And last but not least on the Legends team, we have Johnny. And Johnny chose Amanda Pierce, the Freelancer. And if you look, Amanda Pierce has got she's got a lot of blue stats, which are good. So wits, melee, point, and react are really good. Her respect is, her honor is kind of low. So one of her abilities is she's a loner, cannot trade cards, but she can use the vault. So she doesn't start with any cards, so it's not like she's going to be trading right away anyway. And then let's look and see what we have on the back for Johnny. So he's a social worker, investigator. He wants to be rich, Spanish, but doesn't speak it. So, and then you can kind of see the rest of the stuff. So there you go. Amanda Pierce starts with no cards. And let's see here. What else do we have? Oh, let's show you what the white team's vault contains. So we've got the friction field generator. And we also have fear and courage. If I'm not mistaken, I think Coach Quinn from the last match had this card. I don't remember exactly, but I'm pretty sure he did have that. So we'll see if the white team actually uses any of these cards to their advantage. So, all right, that's the Legends, and so now we'll move on to the Dark Illuminati. All right, first up on the Dark Illuminati, we have Blueberry, and she chose Atalanta, the Agitator. So Atalanta has some pretty good melee, good throw, good react, and she's pretty strong. Her armor is terrible, though, and her intellect is not the greatest either. Abilities include no cards can be traded in her space, and she ignores all mental abilities. So basically, she's not going to be able to trade cards. Or if anybody's in the same space with her, they can't trade with anybody else. So She doesn't like to share, basically. All right, we will look at Blueberry, the back of Blueberry's cards. So the reason she chose Atalanta is her secret fantasy is to be a stripper. Atalanta is not wearing a lot of clothes here, so that's kind of why she chose Atalanta. No other reason than that. And Atalanta does start with one card, and she got the chemical neurotoxin, which she cannot use. So she meets the strength requirement right here and here, but the intellect, you need a 5, and she's only got a 3. So Atalanta cannot use this card. Unfortunately, she cannot trade it with anybody. So the only way for her to use it is to either take it to the list layer and use it as tribute, try to get into the enemy team's base through the gate, or just put it in the vault. That's about the only way she's going to be able to, the only use that she has for that card. So let's see who we have next in the Dark Illuminati. All right, next up on the Dark Illuminati, we have Segundo and Camden Drake, the engineer. So Camden Drake has some pretty average stats across the board, except for his intellect and honor, which are pretty high. If he is in a space with an unleashed enemy bot at the start of melee, remove the bot and give the card to Camden. So he starts with one card, and he can use a variety of stuff. So armor, what is the little gear symbol? So he's good with gadgets, armor, mounts, stealth stuff, and bots. So he's really good with that. So he's an engineer, right? You would expect that. So let's see the back of Segundo's card. So he is a mechanical engineer by trade, and that's kind of why he chose Camden Drake as his avatar. And let's see what Camden Drake started with one card, so let's see what that is. So Camden Drake has the dismissal cube. As a free action, he can dismiss himself. So basically the reason he would use this is if he was in like a tricky situation where he was probably banished to a place he didn't want to be, or if he was getting ready to be engaged in combat or something that he couldn't get out of in any other reason or any other way, so he could use that. And so his respect is the same, so when he uses this card, he gets to replace it for free. So that's pretty good too. So it's almost like a freebie. So let's see who's next. All right, next up on the Dark Illuminati, we have Grasshopper Bez. I will probably call him Grasshopper because Grasshopper Bez that's kind of long-winded. And then, of course, he picked a long-winded avatar too. I think I don't know if the Chinese don't pronounce X's the same way we do, but I would say it's Zin or Chin. I think it might be Chin, the she-kelpie. So runs the whole spectrum of stats. So we have a lot of red stats, which aren't very good, and then we've got some pretty good blue stats. So does better than average damage, very stealthy, good armor, good strength, and good honor. So the she-kelpie can move cost 1 in water, can move through but not end in deep water at a move cost of 1. So this is an aquatic animal, I would assume. All right, one allied character that begins to move in Chin's space and that is allowed to use mounts can ride Chin. Ooh, too bad she is not on the same team as Sheridan the Cavalryman. Ignore the ally's movement abilities. The ally can stop in any space that Chin travels through. So that's pretty interesting. Let's look at Grasshopper, the back of his card. So, basically, Grasshopper would like to meet P.T. Barnum. This looks kind of like one of the mounts that you might see on a carousel at a circus. P.T. Barnum had the greatest show on earth, which was a circus. So there's the link. That's how I arrived at that conclusion right there. And Zen the she-kelpie starts with one secret card. Let's see what Chin the she-kelpie got. We saw this card last game, so Tamura's favor. And it looks like, yes, the she-kelpie is able to use that, but just barely. So if you look here, the intellect requirements are met. So there you go, Grasshopper and Chin. On to the next person. All right, next up is Clendo with Winter Creek, the tree creature. So, we have a whole spectrum of stats for Winter Creek. The one that jumps out the most at me is he's pretty dang slow, but he has a lot of health. So Winter Creek's not going anywhere fast unless we get him into the woods or the swamp or the water. Very good melee. Pretty good armor, very strong, and has a very high honor. So there's Winter Creek, so he can move cost is 0 in woods. So if he's in the woods, he can just pretty much go wherever he wants, unlimited. 1 in the swamp and 1 in the water. Gains an additional 6 stealth when in the woods. And he cannot use armor or transports. So let's look at the back of Clendo's card. Alright, professional scuba diver. Can't swim very well. Trees can't swim very well either, although Winter Creek does have a 1 movement in water. That's kind of why I picked Winter Creek for Clendo, is because he can't swim, and I kind of look at it as trees can't swim very well either. So that's pretty much why he chose Winter Creek. Next up we have Moose, and Moose chose the Martians, or the Little Green Men. So Martians have pretty good power, very good react, very good stealth, and very good intellect. And they can move through enemies without stopping. They're very good with, what are those? Those are energy pistols and mounts, or vehicles. Yeah, that's a vehicle. Mounts is a little horse symbol. But anyway, so let's look at the back of Moose's card. All right. So he just randomly chose the Martians just because he wanted to be Martians. Some people are like that. Maybe Moose grew up in Roswell, New Mexico. So there's that. Let me see here. So the Martians start out with a common and a special card. So let's see what we got. So here's the secret card. Hey, we saw this one last game, and this was a game winner. This is part of what made the difference. So it was Harapalooza last game. I wonder what the special rock concert's going to be this time. And then the Martians also have the Jackal, which is a sentinel. It's basically kind of like, think of a turret type thing. So you put it on the board and it just shoots anything that comes near it. So we can have the Jackal in one spot. It wouldn't be any good to set it up with the Music Mystery Machine though. Or the Mystic Music, whatever, blah, blah, blah. You know what I'm saying. So there we go. And last but not least, we have Pepe, and he chose Orpithu, the cave monster. So Orpithu's got quite a few above average stats: wits, power, damage, good aim, good armor. He has a natural ranged attack. And so his specials are ranged attack using aim as shown. So that's this attack right here. And then suffers -3 to hit if not in the cavern space. So he is a cave monster. So probably one of the a strategy for Pepe would be to get Orpithu in one of the labyrinths and just kind of have him hang out there. So we'll see what happens. Let's look at the back of Pepe's card here and see what led him to choose Orpithu, the cave monster. Let's see here. Yeah. He loves chocolate-covered ants. Jules Verne, right? Jules Verne wrote Journey to the Center of the Earth. Cave monsters probably live in the center of the earth. Oh, he's a lady slayer, so maybe he'll target the... This guy right here, he looks like he could slay some ladies. So there you go. Pepe and Orpithu, the cave monster. All right, folks, so there you have it. There is the lineup for round 3 of the Event Horizon. And this is all, let me show you the board over here. So here I have the brackets. Again, I have not filled out all of these down here, that would take forever to, it'd take a lot of time to do that. And I don't want to get ahead of myself and do all that work and then, you know, lose interest in the game or whatever, or what, you know, I don't want to do all that work and then just, you know, not come to completion. But if you look over here, we've got the Nebula division. That's kind of who I'm working through right now. So, you know, the winner of the Legends and the Dark Illuminati is going to square off against whoever we have there. And then eventually I'll go into the Pulsar division. I have the White Dwarf division. I have the Galaxy division. And it all leads to the Singularity. So that's kind of welcome to my nightmare. And I thank you all for watching. So stay tuned for the next update on the Legends versus the Dark Illuminati.